Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Warm welcome to another edition of APAC Dialogue. We have with us today as our guest Mr. Amit Jaju, Senior Managing Director of Ankura Consulting, and he would be talking about Ankura and a bit on data forensics and data analytics, overall trends and market also. So before we proceed, a little brief on APAC News Network. We are a media organization headquartered out of Noida and with a pan-India presence and outside India presence in Southeast Asia, in Singapore and Malaysia, and the Middle East in Dubai. So primarily we focus on technology deployment across government, healthcare, education, BFSI, enterprise, manufacturing, and the startups community. So Amit, primarily what we would like to focus on today, maybe initially if you can take us through the genesis of Ankura, your roles and responsibilities, and then sort of update us on the portfolio of services and solutions that you are currently offering. Over to you, Amit.
Sure. Thank you very much. Hello and good evening, good morning, good afternoon to all of you around the world. Uh, so we live in very interesting times, as you all know. Digital technology surround us everywhere, and with all the opportunities that has come in, there's also a balancing act with the risks and issues that we face today, and also what we will face in the future. So keeping in that is where Ankura comes into play. So we are a global management consulting firm headquartered in Washington DC, present in about 39 locations globally. Uh, the Ankura is about 8 9 years old, and it also grew significantly both organically and inorganically, where we have focused on issues where a client has to deal with certain risks and how we can protect their business value. And to that effect, we have 6 7 different segments, and those segments or service lines keep getting added, from mergers and acquisitions to risk forensic and compliance to construction disputes, delay, damages, and then of course data and technology is one of our largest segments. I head Ankura Consulting in India, and I also look after growth and innovation for data and technology across Europe, Middle East, India, and Africa. I work very closely with our colleagues all over the world, and that's the key difference. I'm a former Big Four partner, so I've spent close to 17 years in different Big Fours, led projects and delivered engagements in over 20 countries. Some of the well-known cyber breaches, data privacy breaches, bankruptcy cases, U.S. sanctions, U.S. FDA, pharma enforcements, whether in India and abroad, intellectual property disputes. So I have given evidence in international courts on behalf of a client. I've implemented terrorism monitoring over the internet for defense services. I do social media monitoring and threat intelligence monitoring for governments and intelligence agencies all around the world. And of course, white collar crime is an area where I'm involved in significantly, where we are looking at anti bribery and corruption related issues, and using technology to detect and respond to it for clients all over the world, especially in India, because India is a hotbed of all foreign investments. We are a vibrant market. So a lot of private equity players, fund houses are investing in India. There are a lot of global corporations who have operations in India or want to enter India. So there's a plethora of risks, compliance areas where they need help, especially when it comes to third-party risks, insider risks, and all the emerging risks which come from the cyber world. So these are various areas that we operate in, and we continue to grow in newer areas. For instance, we recently acquired NORAG Analytics, which is a AI and machine learning based platform which we are using to mine data through different social media platforms and identify risks to individuals in our clients' business or to their brand, because you know how viral things get, and with all the kind of activism we are seeing on social media, misinformation, disinformation, dark web related chatter on Telegram groups, all these issues are where people with malicious intent can harm an individual or a company or a brand. So we monitor all of that and help our clients, take remedial action and take legal help as soon as we detect a significant risk for them. So that's kind of broadly what we do and where we are.
Thanks. You mentioned about the 12 service lines, and you elaborated on some of them. So, what I would like, if we come to India specific,
Yep.
what are the, if I may say, what are the service lines that witness more traction here,
Yeah.
and in what sort of segments or verticals? And if you can maybe outline briefly the use cases
Sure.
for those service lines in those verticals, more India specific.
Sure. So in India, we have presence with our data and technology segment. So we started in India last year while we were in the pandemic, and we are now more than a year old, present in Delhi and Mumbai. And our focus has been data and technology because, as we know, we are on this high speed trajectory towards adopting digital technologies in all aspects of life. Now with banking inclusion, digital payments, uh, e-governance. In fact, we see a lot of technology adoption even at the government level, whether it is when we apply passports, when we are using Aadhaar card. Now even the government has single sign-on using DigiLocker as a single sign-on option available for everybody who has an Aadhaar. So technology is everywhere, and we are seeing very critical need for some of our solutions and services to respond to opportunities and threats both. So opportunities in the sense when we help our clients on ensuring that they are compliant against all the regulatory norms when they are launching a new product, a digital product, whether it's in banking, whether it is in pharmaceuticals. So in banking, whether we have to go through different RBI norms, certain requirements, audit them, get them certified, and as well as look at data privacy related aspects if it's a multinational kind of customer footprint that the company is looking at. So if you're tapping European clients, what kind of data privacy norms you have to adhere to. So cybersecurity is a big area where we are seeing a lot of traction, both on the reactive side, where we are investigating cyber breach incidents, helping clients recover lost money, where we work very closely with insurance players, and because we have a global footprint, we work through different law enforcement agencies around the world to help our clients trace lost money and get it back, whether it is a business email compromise incident or it's a ransomware incident. So if it's a ransomware or a BEC incident, we have threat actor communication as an area where around the clock our analysts around the world who have former intelligence background track specific threat actor groups and hackers, and then we approach them and negotiate on behalf of our clients to try and get their data back, or we have to negotiate down, say a ransomware payment if somebody's already been infected. But in most cases, we are able to kind of bring back the losses for our clients by using our global network and skills in India. We are also seeing a lot of traction in some of our regulatory technology work, RegTech, where one our focus is on pharmaceutical. So we recently launched our pharmaceutical data integrity platform that helps Indian pharma companies, especially now in COVID. We launched various vaccines and medications, and there was little time to, we were accelerating against the time to complete all compliance requirement, whether it was for WHO, for US FDA, and then increasing capacity at the same time, building new alliances, procuring raw material, getting approvals. So all of that has happened, and in all of that, it's important to maintain the regulatory requirements and being compliant. So our platform helps pharma companies track every single data aspect that gets generated throughout the life cycle of a product or a drug, and then alerts them that if there is a compliance issue, what they need to do. So that's called the data integrity early warning system. It's seeing a lot of traction. We're closing new engagements every day, and we are deploying this not just for Indian companies. Now we're seeing a lot of traction for other emerging markets where pharma companies are exporting drugs to developed markets such as Europe, UK, and the US. So from India, we are exporting this service. The other area we're looking at is the cybersecurity proactive side, where a lot of startups want SOC 2 certifications. They want to get ISO 27001 certified. They want GDPR related compliance. They want to see if they are certain compliant in terms of different norms that keep changing, data privacy related aspects. So a lot of these digital and technology and data driven compliance requirements which companies have. So we are seeing a lot of traction there. The other area is, as you know, we all invest a lot in software. We go on cloud, we have on-premise data centers. So software licensing is a big cost for a lot of companies. So we have done an estimate that between $1,000 to $2,000, on average, what each company, whether it's a startup company or a large company, spends on every employee in terms of software technology that we license. Even if we buy open source licenses, there's still a licensing requirement when it comes to security, when it comes to maintenance. So what we do is help clients using one of our new platforms we launched recently. It's called Ankura Software Asset Manager, which gets installed in a company's environment and scans and identifies all hardware and software assets and tracks them and helps a company manage the compliance. So if they are using a Adobe license, they are using an Autodesk license, they are using an Oracle database, they are using SAP, they are using Salesforce, they are using any open source operating system such as Red Hat, we ensure that the clients are using all software as part of their license agreement, because as you know, if you breach those license agreement, the financial and legal risk could be much higher. Licenses can cost between $100,000 to $1 million, and if you don't plan for them, if you deploy one license on a virtualized environment or on a cloud improperly, then you have to license your entire cluster, as per the rules, and that's where things become very difficult. So helping companies navigate all these licensing requirements from a software standpoint using automation is one area we are seeing a lot of traction. And the last one, some of our services we're seeing a lot of traction is digital forensics and electronic discovery. So whether these are startups or established players, there's a lot of insider risks and also third party risks. So there are investigations, to investigate, say, employee has taken data out or has done some funds transfer, or there is a cyber incident with a flavor of insider involvement in it. Because we know Conti ransomware, for instance, gives 20% cut to employees for running a malware on the server. This could be a vendor who could do it and make $200,000 by just running one file. So it's very lucrative to do. Then we are seeing employees stealing source code and taking it to their new job to the competitor for a lot of money, or employees leaving, taking product out and starting their own firm. And then, in these cases, investigation is needed, and that's where you need digital forensics. So digital forensics is not just what police does. We have a full-fledged lab. We have invested millions of dollars in the tools and platforms, from mobile phones to laptops to cloud-based servers, virtual machines. We try and collect and preserve evidence which is admissible in court of law, and then also handle our clients from the law enforcement standpoint, whether they have to file an FIR, and they have to kind of do interviews internally, identify what happened. And then if the case is bigger, for example, private equity players and also investors do this due diligence regularly to make sure that the investment they have made it into a startup, the IP is protected. So they ask us to do these checks regularly using digital forensics. And if there is a dispute, right, in case that there are two parties involved, there is an employee dispute or there's some other arbitration or dispute in another party, then we have to disclose evidence. To both parties need to disclose evidence through our lawyers. So we have invested in a e-discovery platform. It's called Relativity One, where we can produce this evidence and also help our clients review millions of documents, emails, source code, data using machine learning in a quick and fast manner, which is in compliance with what the courts or tribunal expects, and where the lawyers will be comfortable in the way that has been done. So managing that whole life cycle as part of a dispute, arbitration, or disclosure, which comes after digital forensics, is also what we do. So these are some areas where we are seeing a lot of traction in India. I don't think so this will ever die down. It will increase even more and more as we embrace more and more digital technologies across all sectors. So financial services is another one, across all these sectors. So life sciences and financial services, I'm seeing a lot of traction in these sectors. Media and entertainment, definitely, because with the increase in OTT consumption in India, we have several OTT platforms, who are our clients, where intellectual property theft, or employee misconduct, or protecting intellectual property or content in the first place against cyber criminals. Because there was a global breach of Game of Thrones episode where I did the entire investigation. This is public information. Got breached, an episode was breached, and there was an India link in it. So because so I was involved in doing that. There were several other global breaches where I was particularly involved in dealing with that from a media entertainment standpoint. So these are 3 4 sectors where we are seeing more and more traction.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. So, couple of questions. The second point where you're mentioning about this complex environment. enterprises now get into. So, you mentioned that they can be working on Oracle, SAP, or even open source. So, typically, an environment now for an enterprise will have certain applications might be on premise, certain
Yeah.
applications will be on public cloud, some
Yeah.
applications on private cloud, some on edge. Uh,
Yeah.
there might be multiple public clouds, so it's a complete hybrid environment.
Correct.
Now it's hybrid environment, and there might be certain binding applications, the likes of Nutanix and stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, so there. And the compliance challenges, it's critical,
Yeah.
that scenario. So
Yeah.
how do you help maintaining
Yeah.
the, it's really complicated, the compliances.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
is one part, and the second part is, you initially mentioned pharma and life sciences. Yes, that's a highly regulated sector. Similar highly regulated sector is also your the BFSI part. So specifically, when you are talking about, you offer these compliance solutions also. And this is a more recent phenomena, when last couple of years during the pandemic, when many of the workings had to be done from a work from anywhere kind of environment.
Correct.
So how those compliances got rejigged, if I may say, and again, being such a complicated regulated environment.
Yes. No. I know that was a significant challenge. And see, compliance is an area where it's not necessarily a cost always. There's also an opportunity, because if you're not compliant, then regulatory action happens, and then you lose market share. Also, customers these days are more aware. If you go online and you start shopping for certain goods, you would see environmental rating on certain products, that we are more responsible brand and products. So a lot of customers choose those, but of course there's a cost of maintaining that level of compliance. And so there are various certifications, credentials available globally, where if you're compliant on certain areas, you get that ranking. You should use your marketing teams to publicize that more, so your customers are aware that they are dealing with a brand which is more compliant. For example, brand which is keeping my personal data safer and is more certified on various things which are relevant. I'm more inclined to do business with them, right, than anybody else. But on this complexity side of things, yes, you're right. Environments are more and more complex because everybody wants to move into an OPEX environment. Nobody wants a large amount of CapEx or investments in hardware. So we keep on adding like a pieces of Lego into our infrastructure as we move along. But uh, there is a layer of efficiency that we need to build in as we grow, right? Because if you continue to pay as you grow, then you might be paying 200% more on some of the licenses, because that's how it is. Whereas if we plan and budget our certain products for a roadmap, which is say a 1 year, 2 year down the line, and I have a negotiated contract that allows for not just cost efficiencies but also flexibility in terms of where all will use our software, what will be the environment we'll use them in. Because in many cases, just moving to cloud is not the answer from a licensing standpoint. So I'll give you an example. If you have, say, a database application licensed incorrectly on the cloud, on virtualized manner, then you have to license all the cores, the entire cluster, and that opens up a Pandora's box. If you have an application where customers are logging in, and if you have not licensed the database correctly, then the publisher might ask you to buy licenses for all the users and consider them as named users, because they are indirectly accessing the database. But there are various options available. So if you know what your product does, and if you work with a licensing consultant, and they can advise you the best model, best SKU, and the best way of enabling that, for various applications, and what kind of compliance controls you need to build in. It also happens that sometimes you have outsourced these deployment maintenance to other providers who do it for us. Their job is to get the application up and running, but they don't bother with licensing as an area. and that's in fact in our pocket. And in most cases, these large OEMs have a phone home technology built into their product, which sends signals and details of how and when their products are being used to their servers. They use some smart analytics on it, and they figure out that, hey, somebody is deployed us on Nutanix or VMware, but they have only licensed one core. So let's go back to them, do an audit, and then kind of settle this, including back maintenance of all the usage you had for in the historic manner, going back. So nothing is free. And with cloud, we are leaving all these trails and data points all over the place, which can easily be looked at and monitored. So using specialist help from a licensing standpoint, wherever you see there is gap, or there is lack of understanding, is important even in these hybrid cases. Now to your second question on these regulated industries and how they have coped up with compliance on the work from home situation, I think it was a big challenge for everyone. Uh, but the challenge only was for some time for financial services and life sciences, because they were given some benefit as to have people work from office even during the lockdown as essential services. So initially, yes, they had a challenge, but I think after a couple of months into the lockdown, at least for my financial services and banking, were able to come back to office in a more secure and staggered manner. But opening up work from home for employees who have never worked from home before, there were no remote access. There is critical data on the server, so they had to create different layers. So creating different jump servers from one server to another server. Then we helped clients implement biometric based security tools on the laptops. For example, face is recognized consistently, and if the person moves away from the laptop screen and his face is not visible, then the machine locks. Then implementing advanced DLP technologies was again critical. Enforcing additional layer of encryption on devices, on network traffic was implemented. Additional layer of XDR was enabled and was monitored extensively on employees working from home. And then also, when employees are working from home, they have their mobile phones with them. So in certain businesses, it's very difficult, especially say in trading. If you are a mutual fund or asset management company, then how do you do that? So there are ways where we had to do that, again using whatever infrastructure that was available, which was primarily the laptop of the user, which was available, using camera, sending additional CCTV that monitors what the dealer is doing at home, and making sure that the mobile phone is not used during the trades. And then there were various other tools. And the good thing about us is that because we are a global firm, we get exposed to a lot of international vendors and products and tools, and experience of what our other clients in the US have done. So we learn very quickly from what's happening around the world, so we can replicate those solutions. Unlike, if we were just an Indian firm only working for Indian clients, only looking at products which are available there, then it becomes difficult. Also, some of our licenses that we buy globally, we are able to discount them for use on projects across the world. So if it's a $4 million license of a threat intelligence platform that we have, then our clients don't have to buy that license. They work us through because we have consulting access to those products. And in some cases, we can deploy those products for 30, 60 days, free of cost as part of consulting engagements. So using all of that, it was not foolproof, as in certain sense, when somebody is not in office, there's always a risk of something going wrong. What if the person switches off the phone? What would you do? The person switches off the camera, puts a tape there. You can't do anything there. But then you need to have a control that if something like that happens, how do you switch off access? We are seeing more and more of these recruitment fraud coming in these days, where people are using lip syncing, where somebody else is doing the interview in the room and somebody else is in front of the camera. We have seen even deep fake cases where the candidate who's interviewing actually is a knowledgeable person, but his face is superimposed with the face of the actual person that you're going to actually hire. So all of these tricks are now being used. Now you would say, what can you do? I said, first you have to identify that that is happening, which is a challenge. That, for example, if I am speaking but my lip is 1 second delayed, you might think, hey, his network connection is bad, he might just be delayed, you'll be fine. But if you're aware that that's potentially lip syncing, and you have a process where you eventually ask the potential employee to come and make a face to face appearance during the process, or you have a proctor in that city where the person is, who can volunteer to be in the room when the interview is happening. So all of this is possible, right? Nothing is impossible in today's world. We have all the tools, technologies available to solve this. But yeah, interesting time for us to face these challenges and come up with new solutions for our clients.
Yeah, that's understandable. So another part is the data part.
Correct.
What I when you are involving in data forensics and data analytics,
Yeah.
not just for predictive analytics, but even for the non-predictive also. Ultimately, insights is what is critical.
Correct.
Whatever actions can be taken only as per insights. Now, to
Correct.
get the accurate insights, the data, the quality of data, that's also very critical. And now,
Correct.
what you were mentioning, you are talking about this humongous amount of both structured and unstructured data, and they
Yeah.
are coming from heterogeneous sources.
Correct.
The authenticity of some of those sources, it's difficult to validate them also.
Yeah.
So when all this disparate kind of data is coming, and basically you have to gain or derive insights by analyzing that kind of data. So how
Correct.
equipped you are to handle that, and how are you basically handling that?
Yeah, sure. I think data analytics is one of our core areas. As I said, e-discovery is more about unstructured data. I talked about Relativity One. We have other platforms as well looking at unstructured data. And then for structured data, we have significant amount of tools and technologies and capabilities to mine through humongous amounts of data and bring up with insights. So, you're right. Availability of data and quality of data has been a challenge, but I would say in past couple of years there has been significant improvement in even in a bank when you go, there were certain fields which were never captured. So if you're running a fraud scenario or a money laundering scenario there, uh, those fields were not available. So what would we do? So we would also create insights based on data that was not available and was not captured, right? And then there are some sampling techniques and statistical models we used to figure out, how do we plug those data gaps, in which high risk scenarios or high risk situations where we have to do that, and then complementing analytics on one situation with insights from another. So I'll give you an example. There was this large fund house which wanted to invest in a toll infrastructure in India, a global fund house, and they had some whistleblower complaint that the toll operator in certain cities and regions is deflating collection numbers, where the payments were taken in cash but receipt was never issued, and they were manipulating the barricade opening data and all of that on the server which was on the toll. So we said, okay, that data, a lot of that data was not available. There were no logs. But then we saw, okay, there is CCTV. So we took, 1 week worth of CCTV footage initially, created a machine learning based model which would recognize the vehicles when they're crossing, what type of vehicle it is, and what should be the potential toll of that size of vehicle just by using the imagery on the CCTV footage. And for 1 week of analysis, we identified gaps on certain time frames, on certain days, and we did deeper dive on those specific days. And then we figured out, yes, it matches the car. In all the cases, we found all the vehicles for all 7 days, there were gaps, right? Recurring gaps. So one should always see these challenges as an opportunity to innovate, where human behavior is recorded at various places these days. So if a log is not available somewhere, then maybe you could see a related system where a log could be there, or conduct interviews, look at documentation, look at open source data. So there are a lot of opportunities here. I mean, everybody would agree that 4 or 5 years ago it used to become a dead end if you don't find any data. But these days there's always a question: can we look here? Can we look there? Can we look at that system? Can we look at our cloud logs for entry exit points of that attack? Can we look at our DLP? Can we look at Active Directory logs? So with costs of storage coming down, and with the regulatory environment we are in, where regulators have been very very diligent in terms of enforcing what logging and what kind of data we have to ensure. We know that RBI audits every single bank regularly. They have made banking very safe in the country and have ensured that banks follow certain norms and standardized way of ensuring data. If you look at RBI's norms around core banking application, you will see they have even specified the product version that you have to use. So and there are standardized templates. So I think we are in a very better situation. I've been in several developed countries even where there are the same challenges, right? So it's a misnomer that these challenges are only in India. In fact, I would say it's much easier to now collect and process data here because a lot of our systems are connected. So there was this recruitment fraud where people are saying I work for a big multinational company on their LinkedIn, and then by just doing Aadhaar based authentication and mining through their provident fund deposits on EPFO in automated fashion using a robotics application, we could see the deposit was made by a vendor of that big company and not the company themselves. That means they were working as a subcontractor and not employed. So these that was not possible before, but now it is, right? Earlier, the company will say, "What data do we have? We can't check that." Now you have LinkedIn, you have social media, you have these different government applications and portals where you could check.
That's very interesting. That's really interesting. So now coming from technology to a business aspect, how do you sort of the seek out customers? What sort of go-to-market strategy you follow specifically for India?
No, that's a good question, and that's been an area where we have spent a lot of executive time. I've personally spent a lot of time in developing our go-to-market strategy, because though we are a large global consulting firm, but in India we are still a startup, right? And our name doesn't work wonders, because when I go to somebody and say, "Hey, I have joined Ankura," I said, "Oh, it's your company. It's an Indian name. Are you sure it's a American multinational company?" Then I have to explain to them what the genesis of Ankura, which is a Greek and Sanskrit name put together. So, but I would say these are opportunities where you would, thank that you got these opportunities, because it gives you that leeway to innovate and do things differently than what your large competitors would be doing. So I think agility really stands out, right, for firms who are new, want to reach out to new clients. Social media work wonders, because on social media everybody is equal. It is your content or your post that speaks. So how well your say if you're doing a thought leadership, the thought leadership document speaks for itself based on the content. Nobody cares whether it's come from a McKinsey or it has come from XYZ LLP in India, as long as the research has the content which everybody is looking for. So if you are a company in fintech, for example, you have to share insights and engage your customers, engage your stakeholders, and that engagement can happen at various levels. How you talk about your products, how you talk about customers, safeguarding themselves against cybersecurity threats. What are you doing in educating them? It's not always about your product. Your product features have to align with customers needs is to do faster transactions, feel safe, feel secure, earn reward points, get rewarded for being loyal. So all of these are customer traits, where you could communicate better and offer services and solutions. So we did the same, right? We have certain buyers, whether these are large corporations or small companies, where CEOs, CXOs, and head of legal, head of compliance, head of cyber. So we started releasing a lot of thought leadership on many unique aspects. We use LinkedIn effectively. Some of us already had good connections. We use referrals from one client to another. We were very focused on who we have to go after, where this company is. So before even we approach a company, we would do a lot of research on news articles, looking at their annual reports. What they're saying. Also, if they are listed company, then there will be a lot of data available on the exchange about the company. So doing a thorough research about individuals, seeing where the connections are in LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, it is so easy these days. You could track a company, look at their news items, look at who you are connected with. You can also see what kind of skills there are in the company, what new skills are coming in. That means they're investing in a certain technology. So a lot of research goes into when we start doing our go to market. And then when we go to market, it's important that we tailor our solution or our pitch which speaks to their pain areas, right? We are not selling a one size fit all solution all the time. In some cases, yes, there is, it's a product and you have to take it the way it is, right? You can't really customize it. But in many cases, the ability to customize it and the ability to have predictive pricing is crucial in India, I think. Because if your pricing is extremely variable and complex, then people will not even go to step two. The pricing model, the predictability around it, and the ROI, the ability for the client to calculate a return on investment. Is your product's output measurable? These are some of the aspects that go in. And when you're doing a pitch, these things have to come in, because when a client comes into a meeting to meet you for your pitch, they do not have a template. They are just there, want to hear you out. So you have to be more structured, right, of thinking in advance that it's more about human psychology, where somebody senior executive come in, he only has 15 minutes, right? The first 15 minutes are most crucial. After that, 45 minutes could be whatever. So in 15 minutes, you answer all his questions and tell him, I'm predictable, I'm reliable, I'm a new company, but it doesn't mean that new companies cannot add value to you. And there's various examples now with what amazing work a lot of Indian startups have done, including one startup doing all of our CKYC, right? Nobody knew that it's not a multinational company, but an Indian startup company doing CKYC for everything that happens in India. So, doing that homework, do that homework and don't do it alone. Involve different team members who can give insights. So, that collaboration internally with different team members before a pitch, hearing them out. And the biggest teachers in the world are your competitors. So look at what your competition is doing, what are their offerings, what is the news in the market. Follow them. Look at what they are doing. What have people attend conferences and listen to. Generally, we go in the conference and we don't want to listen to lectures. Just meet potential buyers and come out. But then you are losing an opportunity to have an ear in on the ground of what your competitors are also doing, because competitors drive our behavior. If a competitor is offering something at $100, then you cannot offer it at 110, right? But if a competitor is offering it at $200, then you can also offer it at $210. So pricing, product features, a lot of that is also driven through competition. So keeping that in mind is also a good way of being successful in the market.
So, how would you measure the success in terms of in the last 1 year since you have been in India? What's the approximate number of customers and whichever are the referenceable large names, marquee names?
See, we because unfortunately in the market and the area we operate in, which is confidential and sensitive work, we can't disclose customer names. But I can tell you that when we started off, our biggest time spent was in building these messages, collateral, and customizing our solutions. And while doing that, I always had a reference customer who has always been our supporter, right? Where we would discuss with them, and take their feedback and then evolved. And then as things started moving on, we crossed 100 customers 2 months ago, and then now we are pretty much onboarding a new customer, or maybe 4 or 5 customers every single day. And that's, I think, is a very good metric for me. In fact, this is even better than some of the very established players in the market. So we are and another good thing is that we have a very good mix of inbound work as well as domestic work, because some of our solutions have international appeal. We are also delivering some of this work to international markets, whether it's US, Europe, Asia Pac, where we are exporting these services. Our people are flying out to US, our people are flying out to Japan. They are delivering these services all over the world, collaborating with other offices, other partners. We have formed some alliances in different countries where we are not present, and then we are able to take some of our solutions, such as pharma, in those locations. So that alliance also is, we have close to 35-40 alliances now with different collaboration partners, which is also a good success metric for us. That this is half of our customer 100 mark that we needed to call ourselves successful in first 6 months. Then in terms of revenue model, we were successful because we are doing a hybrid model of various fee models, whether it is fixed fee, hourly, data volume based, success fee. So these are different models, and all of them are gaining good traction all across. So I wouldn't say one model is working more than another model. So putting it all together, I think I would say it's been a good year for us so far.
And lastly, I would ask you a little bit of looking forward, maybe for the next 4 to 5 quarters. So, what are going to be the key focus areas? Can be in terms
Yeah.
of product lines or verticals or whatever, expansion wise.
Yeah. See, I think 4 to 5 months, the next 4 to 5 months is where, a lot of time will also be spent on planning for next year, because our financial year is January to December. So the critical point we have to now do is that as India business has stabilized, we have the customers who are giving us repeat work. We have an engine, a go-to-market engine, which is running, and our attrition is 0%, which is very important for a stable business. That attrition is low. So with a 0% attrition, our focus also is to make sure that uh, we take care of our people mentally in whatever way we can. In today's environment, it's important that we keep people, whether it's our clients or our own people, at the center of everything. So focusing on their growth and development is also important, because so far it's been tough on working extra hours and making sure we are successful. But in terms of focus areas, I think in India we are focusing on financial services, pharma, and launching some of our new products, and taking them to international markets is also very important. So focus, I think, in Q4, which is September, October, November, December, we will be doing a lot of road shows in Europe and America, to meet prospective clients, and collaborate with our overseas offices. We are already planning those meetings. We already have a lot of meetings in the diary, and we are going to offer these unique solutions to our clients, because then December onwards everybody goes for Christmas break, holidays, and then by that time, when we everybody is back in January, business picks up. So we will be in fresh in mind for the innovative way in which we are doing product projects, and also we'll have a lot of case studies and credentials to share with potential clients we are meeting in those geographies. We have also recently launched NORAG Analytics and our social media monitoring area, which I mentioned to you. We have now taken it to a lot of regulators and governments globally. uh, with all that is happening, you are seeing the situation in Sri Lanka. You are seeing, issues around the Russia Ukraine conflict. So there's a lot of geopolitical angle to what's happening, and social media is a critical factor there. So using our predictive models and ability to mine through 35 petabytes of data on an instant basis and give those alerts to our clients is, I think, critical to everyone. So that offering, I think, we are taking to key regulators and key clients who want to derive insights from social media and dark web and instant messaging, etc., etc. So with that heightened geopolitical, I think that product will be a focus area for us as well. Where we spend a lot of our go-to-market efforts on.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you
Thank,
for having me, and it was great interacting with you. Thank you.
sure.